I'm going to tie a classic streamer today, and this is a black ghost, and I'm going to tie it in a size 8 streamer hook. And the thread that I'm going to use is a 6/0 black, and so I'll just get this started here throughout the hook shank, and I'll end about the point in the hook where I can trim the excess. And now I can tie in my tail, and for this I'm going to go to, this is a golden pheasant hide, a lot of good material on this, but I'm going to select these yellowish orange feathers, and I'll peel back all that under fur, or all the bottom parts to it. And I'm going to leave this on the stem. I'm just going to pinch it together to get an idea as to how thick I want it to be. I'm going to tie this in stem and all. So I'll continue to peel back and then pinch it until I get the amount that looks about right. This is going to be less than a hook shank in length, and I'll wrap it down to about the bend in the hook and wrap it back up, and then I'll just break off the stem. Now I can tie in my rib, and for that I'm going to use a tinsel, and I use a two-sided tinsel. On one side is gold, on the other side is silver. I want it to be silver side up, and so what I've learned is to tie it silver side down, and when I start to wrap this, it'll wrap appropriately. Now you'll notice I'm tying in this material throughout the hook shank, and that's so I have a nice uniform taper as I start to apply my floss. So I'm going to use a black floss for the body, and so I've got this 4-strand floss, and it helps when you're using multiple pieces of floss to wet it. So if you just get a little bit wet, it'll bring those 4 together and make it easier to tie in, hopefully. So I lose one here. And just a little bit easier to work with. So I'll just wrap this all the way back again until I get to my tail, and now I've got this nice uniform body for my floss to wrap over. So I can just bring this floss up now, nice even wraps. Again, to keep those strands together, sometimes it's easier to wet them. And now just nice side by side wraps. Until I get to my thread, and then I'll tie it off and trim the excess. And now I can bring my tinsel up through. So again, nice even wraps. All the way up. And when I get to my thread, I'll tie it off. Now for the throat of this fly, I'm going to go back to that same material that I used for the tail off that golden pheasant, and pretty much go through the same process where I'll peel back the material and I'll leave it on the stem, and I want it to angle so that it angles away. There's a little bit difference in sheen, but I'm more interested in the angle than the sheen in this. It's not that much of a difference. So what I'll do here is set this on top. I'll put in maybe 2 loose wraps. Now I can pull straight back until I get the length that I'm looking for. And I want this to about touch the point in the hook. If it needs a little bit more persuasion to sit up, I'll just pull all these fibers up and I'll put just 1 wrap underneath, and that'll help them stand a little bit more upright. You can see how that looks. Now I'm just going to pull this back carefully and trim the butt sections and hold them in place while I tie them down. So you can see how it looks there. Flip it back over. Now I can tie in my wing, and for that I'm going to use, this is a Whiting's bugger pack in white, and there's also a black, and when I take them off they have the curves to them that they want to lie the same direction. If they're buyouts, you'd splay them the opposite way. Here I want to use their curves against one another, so I'll set them so that they're curving in, so then it gives me a nice straight line. So I'm just getting these tips aligned here, and when I measure it out I want it to be just a little bit longer than the tail. So I'll switch my grips here, and now I can just take a straight cut to expose the stem and just peel back some of those pieces at my tie-in point. So you see I need just a little bit more trimming, and when I'm happy with it I'll just set it right on top and tie it in, and then build out my thread head. I've seen a couple of these that use a jungle cock then on the side. I don't tie enough with jungle cock to warrant getting some, so I don't have it. I also don't tie it into the pattern, but now would be the appropriate time, if you have it and you like that look, to add it in. So just building out the head here, I'll put in a couple of whip finishes. And trim the excess. And now the final bit of this is just some head cement. Just to hold everything in place, and it really dresses up those threads. And again, another classic streamer, and that is the Black Ghost.